Wednesday Wake Up and the Jersey Shore real estate experts. Helen-Ann here, and I want to welcome you to our YouTube channel, Living at the Jersey Shore. This week, we are talking about preserving the shore house without family conflict or tax surprises. And what am I talking about? Well, this week I had an opportunity to interview and have a great conversation with a certified financial planner named Kevin Newbert and an attorney, Adam Cohen from Pennsylvania, who also works in New Jersey, licensed in both states. These gentlemen sat down with me to have a very spirited discussion, trying to understand from a financial planning perspective, what can we do to help plan and preserve our shore home before our parents pass away, before we have an inheritance situation, before we have a situation where perhaps homeowners are becoming elderly and now need some sort of care, and are we using this second home or this beach home as an asset for that care? We also had the opportunity to chat with Adam and have some questions talking about trusts and estates and wills and the importance of having some of these things in place and having these difficult conversations before we actually need them. Stay tuned, and thanks for joining us again for Living at the Jersey Shore and the Wednesday Wake Up. We're here to preserve your wealth and keep you from fighting with your siblings. A couple of questions that we had for the gentleman with regards to trying to understand, and from a certified financial planner, what to do. He manages your money. I meet people all the time that say, look, I don't have significant assets. I don't think I need a financial planner. No, I think you're wrong. Any kind of assets really should require the work of a financial planner. They can sort of work with you, help you understand what you have, where you want to go, how you're planning your funds, how you're planning your assets, and smart moves that you can make just to help preserve whatever level of wealth that you have. And Kevin has done an extensive job doing that. And then we have, of course, Adam, who is with us today, who, from an estate perspective, has helped many families figure out preemptively, what can we do? Is it possible to plan an estate and have it be done at the wishes of our parent and not wind up fighting with our siblings or other members of our families? Well, let's find out. One of the questions that I wanted to ask these gentlemen is, what happens if your sole surviving parent needs long-term care? Do you have to sell that second home, that asset, or are you able to find some other way to preserve that asset and then still provide that long-term care to the parent?
I'll give you a rule of thumb, probably under $2 million of assets for a couple, maybe pushing 3. Families really should consider talking to a lawyer when they're young and healthy. Target demographic, target age is 65 to 75. You can put assets into a trust. You can gift it out to kids. That's a scenario I wouldn't gift it. You put it in certain trusts. They're not for tax planning. They're not for this. They're really to remove assets from the Medicaid radar screen years before someone may need it. It's bread and butter, long-term care planning. Other folks can, with more money than a few $1 million, can often self-fund the insurance. They can buy, not insurance, they can self-fund the care. They can afford other insurance products that other less wealthy people can't afford. So when you have folks in that couple $100,000, $1 to $2 million range, and even if they have significant assets, like they own a $2 million short home and $1 million of other assets, that's not poor by any stretch of the imagination. But $1 million in cash and investments is not going to get you very far from age 65 to 85, especially if you're needing long-term care at $15K a month.
Another question that we run into sometimes is when we have a situation where someone says, hey, I've inherited a property with my siblings. I no longer want to own that property. Had an appraisal done. I'm willing to offer my siblings fair market value for the property for my portion of ownership, and my siblings are not interested in taking any money. They want to keep using the house. They want to keep enjoying the house, and they have no desire to buy me out. Do I have any recourse? What do I do? I'm sure this is what mom and dad wanted when they were trying to set this estate or this trust up, right? So what do we do in that kind of a situation?
So here's a common scenario. You got this family. They have 4 kids. Dad had a pretty nice union job. We bought this house on LBI for maybe under $50,000 back in the 60s. And all the family loves to come down and use it. They all share it. Everybody loves to see mom and dad down at the beach house, and they bring their grandkids, and it's great. It's now ballooned to $1.7 million in value. And the kids like to come to the beach house, but they're not all local. Some are using it more than others. And mom and dad have died. The executor gets appointed, and the 2 local sisters are hanging around, and they notice a for sale sign on the front, and they say to the brother, what the hell are you doing? We love this house. Why is it for sale? Mommy always wanted us to use it. We have so many memories. The same song and dance. So the executor realizes, well, I've got to take care of myself. I've got to take care of my other siblings. And I've got these 2 sisters that are down there and they want to use the house the executor can always say, hey, I'm going to sell you guys the house. This is something I see all the time. You as real estate professionals, I'm sure have this come up, that there are multiple potential heirs and owners of this house, and some want it and some don't. And you can do a buyout. Typically, as long as the executor can get fair market value or give some semblance of a little family discount, but they can sell it to the siblings. You don't necessarily have to list it. You can do an interfamily sale, and you can sell the house, and the heirs that want to buy it can come up with a proportionate share of fair market value. And that is great. That happens more times throughout the year than I would care to imagine.
What's even the point of a trust in the first place? Is a trust to help us to fulfill the wishes of someone before they pass? Or is a trust a tool that's used to help us work around various estate taxes? Or both? Curious about that.
A trust is a pretty simple legal arrangement where someone establishes this vehicle when they set out instructions in the trust agreement. The grantor is the person who creates the trust. The trustee is the person who owns and holds the assets, and the trustee has to hold and administer the assets for the beneficiary. Sometimes the grantor, trustee, and beneficiary can all be the same person. Sometimes they are different. And as I said, the trust is really just an empty vessel, so it means absolutely nothing unless and until it gets funded. Unlike an estate, however, the trust comes into existence when you create it. Most people are creating these trusts while they're alive, and they can continue indefinitely. There's not necessarily a requirement for these things to pass out the money in end. That can happen in a lot of trusts and probably should happen, but you could have a trust go on as a going concern for years or decades through multiple generations. So you really have to, again, look at what is the intention of these families. You need to establish a trust. You generally need to have some sort of trust agreement, some sort of document. Back in the day, they didn't really require this, but it's super duper important to have people say what they want to happen with these assets, when they want it to happen, how they want it to happen, and who they want to make that decision. I'll go back to the point, funding is critical. Clients that are thinking about making a trust, putting a house in a trust, especially a beach house or a vacation house that has these emotions wrapped up, that has expenses, ancillary expenses involved, really should be working with a financial advisor to make sure that this plan is going to work. That's something I always tell clients, almost at any type of planning. The legal end is one end. I can't really give financial advice. I don't have the tools or the knowledge, but we need to have big picture, comprehensive plan put in place. The documents are great. Any lawyer, anybody can spit out the document. It's really making sure that there's something unified and something workable for the family.
There's so many times when someone inherits a property, and when they've inherited that property, they've also basically inherited a bill. Taxes are due every quarter. Insurances, homeowners insurance maybe due monthly. If this property is located in the flood hazard zone, flood insurance is going to be due. Where does the money come from to pay for this newly inherited property that suddenly comes with some newly inherited expenses? How do we figure that out? Do we work with a financial planner, or do we have an attorney help us?
But there's states like Pennsylvania has an inheritance tax, and New Jersey has an inheritance tax as well. So this is something you'd be mindful of, or people don't know this, and then they get slapped in the face. They get some inherited money, they buy a boat, they buy a second house, they buy a new car, and then they get slapped with a 5-figure estate tax, and that comes out of nowhere, and it's people pointing fingers to that industry. In case no one told me about this. So this is a breakdown of how the inheritance tax works in New Jersey. Is really, if it goes to your spouse or children, there's no tax. But if it starts passing to your sibling in the same generation, or you want to give it to nieces, friends, cousins, there starts to be inheritance taxes in play. And I think that's something important. And again, it's something to be mindful of. If people are talking about they're selling this house to a friend or passing it down to the next generation, this is something I think it's good to have this in the toolbox of understanding really this is how it actually works. And that's where it has to do with is aligning your objectives, and the advice you have truly matters.
Another great question is, what happens if one of the beneficiaries wants to cash out? Kevin was able to answer that for us, as was Adam.
So you end up in this situation. Then the brother in Florida comes through and he says, hey, I have this equity in this house up in New Jersey that I can't use. I'm disabled down here in Florida and I need to get on Medicaid or something like that. I need to cash out now. Well, very common situation you have where these houses are very expensive. No one can afford to buy it. But these people end up in what's called a partition action, where any owner of the house can go to court and sue to cash out and say, hey, I want to be rid of this house. No one else can buy me out. So the judges usually force a sale. They don't care if it goes up for auction. Their job is to get this thing sold. So I've had this exact case come up more than 1 or 2 times. And the reality is, at least for me, when I'm advising these executors, you don't want to end up in that situation. If no one can afford the house, you just got to sell it, because trying to keep this good thing going too long, I've never seen a case where it works out, where everyone is just, mom and dad have this house, the family loved it, it goes on, the kids own it, and it just goes indefinitely. I've never seen a case where that works. Everybody's got different opinions.
In conclusion, it's really great that we have had a wonderful spirited discussion. We know that we have professionals that we can turn to preemptively to help us plan for our own finances, set us up for success as we grow older and are ready to pass on inheritances to our children one day. But at the same time, it's nice that there are professionals that we can bounce some questions off of, try to understand from a structuring perspective, from an estate perspective, how should our properties be deeded? How should we be setting ourselves up so that when the time comes and we're dealing with something very emotional, like the passing of a parent, or a situation where we have to put one of our parents into some kind of long-term care and we're trying to figure things out. When you have a plan in place and these decisions have already been made, if you will, it takes a lot of the emotion out of it. And at this point now, all you're really doing is effectuating that plan. And I think sometimes when it can come to things that can be so highly emotional as the passing of a loved one and a passing of perhaps significant assets along with that loved one, knowing that it's been predetermined what's going to happen, I think sometimes can take a lot of pressure off of everyone. And they could really spend their time, grieving for the person that they've lost or providing the necessary care for the person that's perhaps in question. If you're looking for more information regarding these topics, regarding certified financial planning, if you need a financial planner, talking about estate attorneys, talking about a trust, talking about wills and deeds and things of that nature, please feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to Kevin. Contact information for him is below. Reach out to Adam, the same. If you're interested, we'd be happy to provide you with a copy of the transcript from a wonderful call that we had done, a great question and answer session going back and forth. Happy to provide that. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to provide you with the information that we were able to learn in the spirited discussion to share with all of you so that you can learn and grow. And again, it's nice to have the comfort of knowing there are professionals that we can rely on, much like ourselves in the world of real estate, that we can properly guide and advise our clients when they need help. Again, thanks for tuning. If you like our content, please make sure that you like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Stay tuned, reach out. I'd like to hear if you've been in a situation that was a little sticky and how you folks handled it. Or if you were in a situation and it wasn't sticky because you already had it handled. I'd love to hear from you and hear some of your stories and share your experiences. Thanks a bunch, folks, and thanks for joining. Have a great day.